What is up, YouTube? I'm Taylor, and I hate mosquitoes. Welcome back to the channel. I'd appreciate it if you hit that like, comment, and subscribe button, as well as the bell notification down here. That way, whenever I post a video, you are able to check it out immediately, and you're notified. So, without further ado, let's get into it. I forgot to film an intro out in the garage when I was working earlier, so let's get into the video. Okay, so last night and today did a little bit of tinkering. So what I found out was the starter button on this. I've got the old one laying here somewhere. That was shot. Every time I pushed the button, it wasn't doing anything. So I went out and bought a new one over at Advanced Auto. Basically, all I was doing last night, I did get it to idle after playing with the carbs a little bit more, but I did have to jump those wires, and when I jumped those wires, I'm gonna shut off the fuel switch real quick. It says no gas, but it works. But anyway, so yeah, noticed that I kind of doubted that the carb floats were adjusted correctly, so I went ahead and adjusted those to 22 millimeters with my slide caliper. Additionally, so I had hinted at this in an earlier video where this is your adjustment tool for your carb sync. Now, how this works is, again, it's just this long wrench that fits perfectly right here on these adjustment lock nuts. So that slot is for that long screwdriver. So essentially, I don't want to mess this up because I've already spent way too long trying to dial this in, but you just turn that screwdriver until it seats, and then you loosen the lock nut by swinging that lefty loosey, righty tighty, and then you can make micro adjustments there with the flathead. Now, I didn't show that just because it was a lot, but I will show the final product because I'm pretty excited about it. So go ahead and we'll turn fuel back on. Turn the ignition on. And we have a running bike. Idle is about 1200. And it's staying there. And then fine tune it a little bit with that. It's about 1500, which is good. It sounds good. So, that should settle back down about 1500. But yeah, we have the CB500F running like a top. And the last thing to do now is to get the front brake feeling a little less stiff. Definitely needs more brake fluid. So I'll probably go ahead and bleed the brakes and see what I can get it to do. So that's the last thing before buttoning this up. Reinstalling that switch, obviously, right here in that bracket. But pretty excited with how it's looking and sounding. Okay, so we have a water bottle hooked up. We did have to heat this valve up a little bit, or this nipple up a little bit, so we cracked it, and all we're doing is bleeding this out. And this is where it'd be easier if you had another hand. So I'm going to refill this. So we're starting to get air in it. I hate doing brakes, but it's a necessary evil sometimes. And we're making a hell of a mess. But again, that's part of doing brakes. But, so essentially all I'm doing here is I'm cracking this bleeder valve and then squeezing the front brake to get all of the air out. And so far so good. So I'll toss the cap back on this. It's about ready to pull off of the lift and see how it's doing here. But yeah, like I said, making a damn mess, but it's okay. Just leave that there and give it another rag. But we're gonna crack this one more time, just make sure that everything is up to snuff. And we still got a couple air bubbles there. But the brake is stiffening up, which is good. And we're going to tighten that back up. Okay. And brake fluid is some nasty stuff. If you've never worked with it before, try not to get it on anything that you want to look pretty, because it's pretty damn corrosive. But, okay. So, and you want to keep air out of it. That's why I had it in a bottle. Just wanted to clarify that a little bit. Now that the brake is bled, there is a chance that we're going to have to pull the caliper off, just to make sure that that is not seized. If that's the case, we'll tackle that when we get there. First things first, though, I am going to go ahead and inflate the tires, put the switch back on up here, get all of this buttoned up, and then we'll go from there. Okay, something that I like to do when installing these old brittle covers, just take a little bit of white grease. Just grease your side cover a little bit. And that's just going to help it, A, pop back in, but B, and also help it not get stuck. You got to pull it off next time. It won't get stuck. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna keep that there like that. I'm gonna zip tie that. And then trim it. Okay, that one's done. Next up to install would be the other side. Again, same process. I'm going to move the camera around so you can see from another angle as well. Exactly. That way you can see what I'm doing on this side as well. There. And up here. So this also helps just moisturize those rubber parts where it pops into. Okay. Now to reinstall the seat and go from there. Actually, we have to get the tank on first, so that requires, I have too many bikes going on here. Alright, we're going to go ahead and get the tank on, disconnect all of the auxiliary fuel lines, and then go ahead and get the tank over there on before going to the seat. And make sure to hang that up out of the way so it doesn't leak on anything. Alright. The long one goes on the right side. Long fuel line goes on the right side because that's the farther distance that the fuel has to travel. And the short one goes on the left. If you couldn't figure that out by process of elimination. Hopefully, if you're following along at home, you reach this point prior to installing your carbs, because these fuel lines are a lot easier. Let me tell you, a lot easier to install. A, when the engine's not hot, but B, also when the carbs are actually off of the motor. really struggling not burning my hand right now. But we are somewhat making progress. I'm trying to find something here that I can use to kind of coach and encourage that fuel line to go. Which is really proving to be a challenge. But we're getting there. Let me see if I can't find any long needle nose pliers that maybe we can coax it with. Worth a shot, anyway. I don't know why the other side was so easy to get on, to be completely honest. But it was. So you can kind of see what I'm trying to do. I have to fish the fuel line all the way down onto that T-tube there. So there's like no good way of showing this. Okay, so I did manage to fish that all the way through. It was kind of a pain, but we got it. So side cover's back on, ready for the tank. Tank slides on like so. All right, tank's on. And next we connect the fuel petcock. All right, fuel lines are on, hooked up. It is to stop at the moment. All right, before we continue, we are going to go ahead and fill this up with fresh gas just to make sure that everything's good before reinstalling the seat. Okay, so we've got a little bit of fuel in the tank. We are looking for fuel to start flowing. There is not enough fuel in the tank because it's not flowing. So keep filling the tank until fuel starts to flow. All right, everyone. Bike is still running good. Maybe idling a little bit higher than it was. Dial that back down to the hair. But it is running good with the tank on it. So it is running out of the fuel petcock through the fuel lines, which is great. That's good. Next thing to do is to go ahead and throw the seat on and then fill the tires with air. Make sure those are all up to snuff. And then we should be good to go take her for her first test ride in God knows how long. So, come on. Okay, and seat's about on. Okay, and seat's about on. Just gotta finish tightening up this nut here. A really good hiding spot. Unfortunately, it's just a pain to get to. But we're gonna get it, just like the rest of this. And should be on here before too long. Okay, bike is all assembled again. Now the only thing we have left to do is inflate the tires and roll it off the stand and see if we can't take her for a spin. So I'm gonna get the stand cleaned up, or the lift cleaned up a little bit here. That way it's easier to roll it off, and then we'll get back at it outside once everything's off the stand and ready to go. I swear I fight with this thing, but it's so nice. I love having that. Okay, we already have it running, so already have it running. Tires are filled up. Now time to see doesn't fear. Okay, so far she runs. comes up, she takes off like a bat out of hell. That much I do know. YouTube, if you check behind me, you'll see the Honda 504 sitting on the lift and running. So it is idling still. Had to order a vacuum gauge kit in order to sync the carbs. We're going to dive into that today. Just letting it get warmed up right now, and then once it's actually all warmed up to operating temp, then we'll go ahead and get started. All right, let's get at it. All right, everybody. So I went ahead and did the process so I could explain it to you better. That way I knew what I was doing and I didn't just kind of mumble on camera and explain it. But this whole process that I've done here, I went ahead and followed one of Common Motors videos, and I can link to that below. That's really what I did in order to do this process. The important things are your vacuum gauge, and you can get the 4-gauge kit if you really want to. However, I wanted to do the Common Motor method with 1 gauge. It just seemed a little bit simpler and would be a little bit more accurate. So that's what I did here. I got the Common Motor kit, and essentially all that is your vacuum gauge up here. You've got a valve here that you just want to barely open, and that controls the flutter of the gauge. From there, you've got a gang valve here with 4 valves. Each one of those lines go to a brass tube that plugs into one of the vacuum plug ports on your intake manifold. Once you get all that hooked up, you've got your fuel lines extended going over to your gas tank. I found that this is actually an easier method than using this. It prevents the fuel lines from getting kinked, which I think was part of my issue before. The next thing, aside from all of that, you want to get the bike up to operating temp. So what I did is I ran it for about 10 minutes here with the fan on it, and then I started working. And at this point, I'll show you what I was doing, what I was looking at. Okay, so here you've got your gang valve, and then you've got each of these adjuster screws and nuts. And what you're going to do is you'll take your special tool, and I'll show you what happened to mine, because I was trying to use it as a regular screwdriver. The tip broke, so I'm going to have to see if that can be warrantied. And essentially all it is, though, is a big version of this. So you're looking at a socket and a screwdriver, flathead, and you'll put the screwdriver on there, get that socket on there, and then the screwdriver in there as well into that slot, and then obviously the socket over the actual nut itself. And that's your way to adjust this. So essentially, I'll show you here. So we've got this valve shut. Go ahead and turn it on. Guess we got to turn the fuel on. It's on reserve right now. Okay. Let me set this down for a moment. Okay, that's the idle. Right now, short gang valves are closed and this valve is closed. If I open up this valve here, and we'll just start with cylinder 1, carb 1, we'll open that up and you'll see that the vacuum gauge is fluttering. So you just slowly close this just a little bit. You don't want it all the way closed, you just want to get it so it's just fluttering, just controlling it there. So we're operating at 100 millimeters of vacuum on cylinder 1. So we'll go ahead and shut that valve there. Go ahead and close that. And then remove this boot to zero out the gauge once we reopen this. So gauge is zeroed out. We're going to go ahead and shut that valve again. We'll put the boot back on. Okay. Now we're going to do cylinder number 2. Same process. So that one's sitting a little bit high, about 175. So that one can be adjusted a little bit, but just for the sake of it, I'm going to go ahead and show you the other ones as well. Again, pop the boot off, zero out the gauge. And we're going to open number 3. And we're sitting at about 100 there. So, okay. It's not going to do anything unless you put the boot back on. So that's sitting at about 102. So really cylinder 3, I think it was 3 or 2, needs to come back down again. So we'll go ahead and check those again. Three's correct. Two's the one that needs adjusted. So we are going to set this down here somewhere that it's not going to vibrate like crazy. Alright, we're going to try to turn the gauge so you guys can see it. Back that back down. I gotta remember where I put my tools. jack that screw out a little bit, and as you can see, we're still on valve 2, cylinder 2, and now the valve is, or not the valve, but the jacking gauge is sitting right around 100. We'll get that flutter down. So we're on the money. So I'm gonna go ahead and check over all of them again now that that's dialed in. Make sure nothing has changed, and then we'll go from there. we're going to get everything buttoned up and see if she's any less sluggish actually driving or riding, rather. Alright everybody, she is ready to go back to her owner, and she will be for sale here soon. I'm not entirely sure what he'll be asking, but figured I would show you guys what she sounds like. She sounds pretty good. Everybody, that's it for this series, and stay tuned for the next one. If you liked what you've seen so far, I'd appreciate it if you hit that comment button and let me know what you did like, what you didn't like, bring me a new one, whatever. Leave a comment, I'd appreciate it. And I'd also appreciate it if you hit the like button and subscribe as well, so that way you can see more content when it comes out. Alright, thank you guys. Have a good one.